Hi everyone, it's Toga, and today I'm going to be taking you through a 20-minute standing flow. This flow is designed to actually be done if you are traveling or you are somewhere that's not home. Maybe you don't have access to your mat. I'm going to be doing the flow on my mat today just to show you, but if you don't have one, you can do this flow without a mat or any other props. So this is really something that you can do anywhere. And is especially good if you don't have access to your normal yoga accessories or studio. So we're going to be obviously on our feet the entire time. So if that's not accessible for you, you could also maybe sit on a chair and follow along with these poses. But otherwise, we're going to be just doing a brief warm-up, getting into some standing poses, warming our body, coming into a peak pose of pyramid, and then we'll be doing a standing cool down as well as a standing shavasana. So if you are ready, meet me on your mat. If you don't have your mat, just meet me anywhere where you have enough space to sort of stretch out a little bit and have room to move around. And then when you're ready, you can softly close your eyes or gaze down the tip of your nose as you drop into your breathing here. Take in a big inhale, hold it at the top, and then exhale it out. Do that a few more times on your own, paying attention to your breathing, following your inhales and your exhales. If you want to set an intention for this practice, something you can come back to throughout and at the end during Shavasana, feel free to do that now. If nothing's coming to you, I invite you to consider the idea of adaptability, being able to move through life easefully and mindfully. And take one last big inhale and release that exhale. And as you're ready, we can begin our warm-up. Go ahead and start with some shoulder rolls here. So you can just gently roll those shoulders back towards the back wall or the back of your room, making these rolls as big or as small as feels good in your body. Just waking up that shoulder girdle. When you feel even in one direction, you can start moving them towards the front of the room. When you feel even in both directions, bring those shoulders up towards your ears. Squeeze, 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 squeeze for a moment here. And then on your exhale, drop everything down. Feel those shoulders fall away from your ears. Feel them roll down your back. And then on an inhale, sweep your arms up. And you're going to gently grab your right wrist with your left arm, pushing into that right foot and coming into a nice lateral stretch here. Gently tugging the right arm and the right wrist over the side of your left side of your body. Breathing in here. Paying attention to any sensations on the right side of your body, the right rib cage, maybe even the right leg. And then exhale and come back to center. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So that right hand gently grasps the left wrist and gently pulls it overhead, coming into a lateral stretch on the left side. Sending your breath to the left side of the rib cage. Feeling any sensations there. Feeling if your breathing has changed. Maybe pulling yourself a little bit deeper here. Your gaze can drift down to the floor if that feels good. And on an exhale, coming back to center, dropping those arms down by your side. Maybe you roll those shoulders out one more time. Shaking the hands, shaking the feet, waking your body up. Now we're going to come into a standing cat-cow. So put a slight bend in your knees, giving yourself some room here. Your hands can come on the tops of your thighs. And on an inhale, we're just going to arch our back, lift our gaze towards the ceiling, feel the shoulders roll down your back. And then exhale, curl yourself forward, gaze drops down, belly button pulled in. Coming into that standing cat. And inhale again, coming into cow, arching your back, gaze lifts up. And exhale, rounding the spine, curling your neck and chin in, coming into cat. And just go ahead and do this a few more times on your own, following the cadence of your own breath. Lifting up into cow on your inhales. And rolling into cat on your exhales. And when you're ready, you can straighten those knees and roll back up to a straight standing Tadasana mountain pose. And when you feel ready, I invite you to step to the front of your mat, or if you're not using your mat, just step to a part of your space where you can extend your legs back and come into some standing warrior poses. First, we're going to do a couple of sun cells. So on your inhale, sweep your arms up towards the sky. And on an exhale, forward fold. Hands can come to the mat, or they can come to props if you don't have props and you can't reach the mat. You can also just bring them to your shins. And if you're on your shins, go ahead and stay there because we're going to come up into our flat back, halfway up fold, and then exhale, come down to the mat. And inhale, arms sweep up towards the sky. Exhale, dive right back down to the mat for forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Feel those shoulders roll down your back. Feel that flat spine. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms sweep up. Back up towards the sky. Exhale, arms swan dive forward, back down to the mat, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, palms to the mat or the floor, forward fold. And one more time, inhale, sweep the arms all the way up. Maybe your gaze lifts. And exhale, swan dive yourself forward into a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. And in this forward fold, feel free to generously bend those knees. If you want to take ragdoll pose, holding opposite elbows with your hands and gently swaying back and forth, feel free to do that. Take whatever movement here that feels good, that allows you to maybe get a little bit deeper here. And letting your sit bones point towards the ceiling. And then on an exhale, you can release those hands to your shins or the floor or blocks. And then slowly roll yourself back up towards the top, letting your head and your neck be the last thing to come upright, coming into your strong mountain pose. Coming back to your breath. And then when you're ready, we're going to come into our standing flow. So we'll start with the warrior one. So you're going to take that left foot and step back about 4 feet or so, depending on your stance. If you want to widen your stance so that your feet are on railroad tracks instead of a tightrope, feel free to do that. That can help with balance and creating a steadier base. And then you're going to bend into that front knee, that right knee, making sure the knee is stacked over the ankle. Both of the eyes of our hips, of our iliac bone, are going to be pointing towards the front of the mat. So we're not coming out into warrior 2, but we're facing forward into warrior 1. That back heel can have about a 45-degree angle turned inside to the mat. And then you're going to lift your arms up, facing towards the front of your mat. If arms up doesn't feel good for you, you can also bring your hands to heart center and just pose like this. Pick whatever feels good in your body today. If you're feeling a little wobbly, press into the outside of that back foot and then press into the ball mound, the toe mound of that front right foot, really pressing in, pulling the mat together, creating a steady base for your body here. Let the shoulders drop down your back and breathe. On an inhale, straighten that front foot, pivot the back foot so that it's facing the top of your mat or the front of the room, and then step yourself back forward. We'll just do the same thing on the opposite side. So this time your right foot is stepping back. Make sure you can position yourself however you want, but however feels comfy and sturdy. That back heel is coming in about 45-degree angles. The front leg is bending so that the knee is stacked over the ankle. The eyes of your hips are pointed forwards. And inhale your arms up or to heart center. Shoulders rolling down your back, pressing in to the toe mound of that left foot and the outside of that right foot, bringing in a sense of stability here as we hold in warrior 1. And then on an inhale, you can straighten that front leg, pivot the toes, the back foot, lower your arms and step forward towards the top of your mat or the top of your space. We'll do that same thing. We're just going to add on. Go ahead and step that left foot back into your warrior 1. Inhale your arms up or to heart center. Sink down into your hips. Pull the mat together with your feet pressing into the toe mound of the right foot and the outside of the left foot. And then on an exhale, you can drop your arms, swim them back, and interlace your fingers behind your back. On an inhale, looking up towards the ceiling, maybe putting a little bit of a back bend in there if that feels good. Gently drawing those interlaced fingers down your back. And then on an exhale, we're going to lean forward. You can keep your fingers interlaced or you can let that go and just hold the outside of your arms here. But we'll be coming into humble warrior. So dropping your head down on the inside of that right leg. Perhaps your gaze looks underneath that right knee. Breathing in here. Finding a steady base. Stretching those arms towards the ceiling. And then on an inhale, standing back. up, releasing those hands, pivoting that toe towards the front of the mat, and then inhaling and stepping forward. And we'll do the same thing, just on the other side. So on your inhale, step back with the right foot, coming into your strong warrior one base. Inhaling those hands up or to heart center, making sure that that left knee is stacked over the left ankle, pressing into the outside of the right foot and the ball mound of that left foot. Inhale here, exhale, maybe you sink a little deeper. And then on an inhale, you can drop those arms down. Go ahead and interlace those hands. You can do the opposite thumb on top. It's the one that feels weird. So you can go ahead and draw those interlaced hands down your back. Maybe your gaze lifts towards the ceiling. If that doesn't feel good, feel free to just keep your gaze forward or wherever it feels comfortable on your neck. And maybe you come into a little bit of a back bend here, letting the shoulders fall away from your ears. And then on an exhale, you're going to lean forward, coming into that humble warrior, dropping your head towards the ground, lifting those arms up towards the ceiling. Maybe the gaze comes underneath that left knee. And we're not draping on the knee, we're not resting on the knee, we're coming to the inside of that left knee here. And breathe into this pose, feeling the steadiness of your base. And on an exhale, you can release those arms, come straighten yourself back up, pivot that back foot, and step back to the top of your mat. Wonderful. We're going to go ahead and come into our pyramid pose now. So you're going to take that left leg and step it back. And then you can keep that front right leg straight. And if you came automatically into sort of a warrior one pose and your foot's a little bit farther back, you might want to shift it forward a little bit, just a step or two, just to bring the feet a little closer together. And then we're going to turn those hips back towards the front of the mat or the front of your space. And then your arms can either come behind your back, holding the outside of your elbows, sort of like we did in ragdoll, or if it's available to you, you can come into reverse prayer hands. Inhale, and then on your exhale, hinge forward at your hips, bending over that front right leg, keeping a flat back here as we come into pyramid. Gaze can drop to the floor or a few feet above your right foot. Pull that right hip back a little bit. Feel any sensations in that leg. Keeping that spine straight, not rounded in. And then inhale yourself back up. You can release those hands, maybe shake them out, and step back towards the top of your space. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So step that right foot back. If you came into a longer warrior one stance and you want to shift yourself forward a little bit, bringing those feet a little closer together, I invite you to do that. Turn those iliac bones, the eyes of your hip, towards the front of the room. Straighten out that left leg. And then those hands can either come to the outsides of your elbows, or you can take reversed prayer. Inhale your spine straight, feeling that line of energy. And then on an exhale, hinge at your hips, bending over that left front leg, keeping that spine straight, pulling that left hip back a little bit, pressing into your feet, pressing into the outside edge of the back foot to give yourself a little bit more stability. Maybe putting a micro bend in that front leg to avoid any hyperextension. Breathe here. And then on an inhale, lift yourself back up. You can release your hands, shake them out, and step back to the front of your mat. And then you can stay at your front of your mat, or you can move to the center of your space. And we're going to just roll down towards the ground, dropping yourself into a forward fold. Don't worry about your hands touching the ground or not. You can put a generous bend in those knees. And maybe you just gently shift around here a little bit, moving from one side of the mat or the space to the other. Taking any movements here that feel good. Maybe you do ragdoll pose again. And really breathing into this pose. And then when you're ready, slowly rolling yourself back up to a standing pose, letting your head be the last thing that rolls up. Shoulders coming down your back. And now we'll come into our standing mountain pose Shavasana. If there's a chair nearby, or if you want to lie on the floor for traditional Shavasana, I invite you to do that. If that's not available to you and you want to take this pose standing, feel free to do that. Shoulders are going to roll down our back. Palms are going to turn out, chest forward. Pull that chin in a little bit so that all of your spine is in alignment here. And you can close your eyes or softly gaze down the tip of your nose and drop back into your breathing here. If your knees are locked, unlock them. Put a micro bend in those knees. Maybe you wiggle your toes, gripping into the mat or the earth. And come back to your breath. If you can stay longer here in this Shavasana, whichever kind of Shavasana you've chosen, please do that for another 5 or 10 minutes. But if you need to get back to the rest of your day, if you have things to do, if you're traveling, if you're not home, start to bring your attention back to your body, wiggling your fingers, maybe lifting and lowering your toes. Maybe you do a few more of those shoulder rolls from the beginning as your gaze slowly lifts. Feel free to shake it out. Take any other movements to bring yourself back into your body. And as you go on with the rest of your day or your evening, give yourself a little note of gratitude for taking this time to come to your mat or come to the floor and doing a little practice for yourself. As we move on with our experience, remember that everything you want or need is right here inside you. You just have to ask for it. Thank you for practicing with me today. I'm Toga. Be well.